What is going on, guys? Brains TV here, back again with another Chelsea transfer daily video, and it feels like it's been so long. Quite a lot has happened lately, and of course I haven't really been there to bring you guys the news because NiiNii's been bringing out a lot of quality content, and myself included have been working on a few things. But it's good to be back, good to bring you guys all the latest Chelsea news over the last 24 hours, a roundup of all of the latest activity around our club. There's a lot to speak about, lots of interesting news, quite contrasting to what I was maybe expecting today, but let's jump straight into it. I do want to remind everyone to hit the subscribe button and the notification button if you haven't already. But without further ado, I thought I'd start off with Antonio Conte. Now, of course, he had his first opportunity to really speak to the press after our, I won't say demolishing because I mean it was only pre-season, but our very convincing victory against Arsenal all the same. And he was actually asked about transfers, and this is something I always get excited about when a manager is quoted about transfers. And he was quoted saying, to face 4 competitions in a good way, we need more players. The club know this very well and they know better than me. We need more. We need to improve the quality aspect and the numerical aspect. So he's speaking about not just bringing quality in, but making up the numbers as well. Now, this tells me a lot. It tells me that there must have been frustrations behind the scenes from Antonio Conte, and it also gives me the encouragement that he wants more, and he's telling the fans he wants more. I remember Mourinho was quite coy and rashful about it when he was back at the club a few seasons ago, and he was saying more so, look, I'd like some more players, but we have a very good squad. Conte's not even saying that. He's saying, yeah, we've got 11, 12, 13 players that are good quality, but we need a lot more to compete in competitions, and he says that he's made that clear to the boards. And maybe the indication of the new contract that he signed, which isn't an extension, I will remind people, it's only a pay rise. He's not any longer at the club, he's just earning more money, but it shows contentness from the manager, and that's looking good for me as well, because Antonio Conte is the mastermind behind the Chelsea plan. And I think as a club as well, we've always kind of needed a manager to take us to the next level. You know, we were always signing players, we were always winning trophies, but there was never that long-term project sitting there. You could tell the board were trying to want to do it with financial fair play, but now that they've got Antonio Conte, a manager that they could truly build a club around for years to come. Now, whether he'll be there in a few years' time, who knows, that remains to be seen, but very encouraging stuff from the manager so far. So let's now get into the players that we're being linked with, and it's quite surprising for me as well, because we're being linked with to a lot of young players. Now, the first player I want to speak about is a very highly rated winger over in the Brazilian league, plays for Flamengo. Apologies if I butcher the pronunciation, but he's called Richarlison. Now, this is another up-and-coming winger from the Brazil league that's touted as the next big thing. I can't help but remember all the years ago, I think it was only 2 now, that we signed Candreva. Of course, he came from Flamengo as well. This guy's kind of got similar things touted around him. You know, the easiest thing to throw is the whole Neymar name tag, the new Neymar, if you will. He's not quite that level yet, and even though he's an exciting talent, and I believe the fee wouldn't be too high, you're talking maybe only 10 million or even less than that, 3, 4, 5, because he's very young and up and coming as it is. I'm just not sure where he would fit in. Like I say, I can't see much of a difference between him and Kennedy at the moment. Just too young in the development stages, and you know, it just surprises me even after today seeing the promising performances from players like Boga. Do we really need to be buying another potential player? I'd be much happier, and people know I'm not the biggest youth advocate, but I'd be much happier to see youth getting those spots than just have more potential players that we've bought from other clubs to just sit there and basically clog ways for youth to get through. This wouldn't be an improvement for me at all. It might be an improvement on depth, but if you're going to go down that route, we've got more than enough youth players waiting to get into that first team or even around the squad. But I won't get into that too much. I wanted to move on to a main player now, Matic, and it looks like his reported move to Manchester United could be back on. Now, it was previously reported that Roman Abramovich himself sanctioned a move for Nemanja Matic to go to Manchester United, and I don't think it was out of sentiment, because apparently there was a premium put on him for 50 million, and it's actually looking like Manchester United might be prepared to pay the fee. Now, considering we got Morata for 58 million, surely that would be great business on our parts, even regardless of selling to a rival. I mean, what do you guys think about this one? I think Nemanja Matic, I'm not doubting him as a player, but 50 million, and I believe he's what, 20 or 29, not going to have any resale value for United. Yes, he would strengthen them, but 50 million for us, the way that we're conducting our transfer business, yes, it might be slow, yes, it might be poorly done in ways, but at the same time, the value for money we're spending on players, Morata for 58 million, I mean, that's another 50 million to add to the transfer kit. Now, yes, you could argue, are we ever going to see that money getting spent? But it's been a relatively successful transfer window so far in my eyes. Things got rolling a little bit slow initially, but Can many really complain where we're at right now? I'm feeling a lot more optimistic going forwards. Another kind of surprising thing that's come over the last 24 hours is Candreva, the Inter Milan wing back, if you will, potentially being linked to Chelsea, and this has upset quite a few people. I believe he's somewhat of an Antonio favourite, or maybe not Antonio favourite, but of course he played under Conte in the Euros as a wing back, and that kind of, maybe that's where the media is getting any potential links, but really I couldn't see much truth in this. I know we were linked to quite a few strange players last January, if you guys remember being linked to Biabiana over in that Serie A league as well, but I just can't see this one happening. I mean, I know there's always that Serie A link and the media have enough to go by, but after all the quotes Conte was coming out with, is Candreva really our best option? He's not the worst player out there, don't get me wrong, but in my eyes he's not an improvement on anyone in our team. Even as a backup option, yes, we need a right wing back, but the fees being talked around is just under 20 million euros, which might not sound like too much, but Danilo looks like it's finished now. He's going to Manchester City, so that's another one that we missed out on, and he would have been a much better investment in my eyes. So Candreva, not the biggest fan of this one happening, but it's being reported, and of course it's my job to bring you guys the news, and this is what's been linked to us as of late. But now moving back to the WONDERKID side of things, we've also been linked and keeping tabs on Balou Tevez Tabala, and I tried very hard to pronounce that right. And now he's a Montreal winger. Of course, he plays over in the American League. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, don't follow the MLS all that much, so I can't really give an in-depth review on this guy, but apparently he came from the recommendation of Drogba himself, who of course has been over there for the past couple of seasons. So any recommendation coming from someone like Drogba, you're gonna have to believe it, I suppose. But at the same time, this is what I was saying before, I'm not really understanding all these links to the young up-and-coming kids, because we already have that. I mean, if Willian and Pedro stay at Chelsea this season, which I fully expect them to do, that's two main players they're going to be vying for the winger position. As soon as Eden Hazard's back to full fitness, he's going to be the starting player there. And behind those two, you've got Musonda, who I hope stays at Chelsea. You've got Boga, who again I hope stays at Chelsea. So, you know, there's already enough competition in those places, and just doesn't make a whole pile of sense for me. But as always, I'll monitor the situation and bring you guys the links. Of course, we do get linked to a lot of WONDERKIDs and a lot of players over the summer, so I wouldn't really freak out too much about this, but I must admit this is the most youngsters we've ever been linked to in one single Chelsea transfer daily, because the next player I'm about to speak about is another young up-and-coming player. This one's a centre-back, Sar. He's a centre-back who plays for Nice, young French international. He's extremely highly rated, and he would probably be a rotation player if he did come in. He wouldn't really be near that first team at 18, but he's playing for Nice, like I said, broken in very early, and he's been scouted by the likes of Real Madrid, Barcelona. 36 million on his head, apparently, sterling that is, so that's a big fee for a young player. And again, I've just got a question why Chelsea would do this. Now, there is one theory I'm working on, and it's a pretty bad theory. Just essentially, like I said, we've let go of quite a few of our youths this summer, with Aki leaving, Loftus-Cheek leaving, Chalobah leaving. Maybe Chelsea wants a similar crop to come in and maybe not necessarily replace Musonda and Boga, but be the next tier below them, and that's kind of disappointing, because I thought we were maybe moving out of this loan policy transition, if you will, because we're seeing a lot of the top talents being sold on, but at the same time it seems as if the players that we are selling are kind of ripe for the pickings, and we've got no other option because they're just not happy at the club. But I really do hope that these links aren't all that true, and I tend not to say that about young up-and-coming players, because it's always nice whenever they earn their chance at a big club, but we have enough of those at Chelsea, and even just seeing the youngsters we had on display today, it shows me that the future is very bright for Chelsea. And I'm not the biggest youth advocate, but we really don't need to be buying someone who's equal or below the standard of our youth at the moment and just blocking their way. But just to finish up, guys, last story of the day, there is a little bit of news regarding Virgil van Dijk, of course, the Southampton Dutch defender we were linked with quite early on in the transfer window. Lots of news broke back then that we had a deal done. That's obviously not true. It looks as if our interest had expired in the player after the signing of Antonio Rudiger, but maybe that was down to the fact that Southampton basically refused to sell him, so it looked as if they had almost ended their interest. But apparently Van Dijk refused to train on Friday with the club and wants to leave, so a few sources are picking up the fact that Chelsea could still be interested, and normally I would just completely ignore this story, but it is very interesting to me that whenever I was reading Antonio Conte's quotes earlier about the transfers, he did mention that Chelsea had a lot of major players leaving the club, like Frank Lampard, like Drogba, and like John Terry. Now I see me, Morata being, in Conte's eyes, a potential long-term replacement for Drogba, a striker that could be at the club for a long duration and really replace that presence that Drogba gave us. I mean, those are big boots to fill, but, you know, we've got Bakayoko, who's, I mean, in a similar mould to us in ways, I suppose you could argue, but Rudiger for me isn't anywhere near John Terry yet. I'm not going to sit and debate Rudiger's ability with you, but moving for Van Dijk is certainly more proven, and reports are suggesting Chelsea could go back in with a 70 million bids. I wouldn't hold your breath in this one. That's the only logical reason behind the move I could see, but like always, I do try and bring you guys the reports. I'm not saying it's true, I'm not saying it's false, I'm just handing them to you. In my opinion, I can't see Chelsea going back in for him, but there is a little bit of logic there, so maybe keep your ears out. It looks as if Conte wants major activity yet, so the transfer dealings aren't done yet, guys. Stay tuned for the next one. Thanks very much for watching, and please do hit that subscribe if you enjoyed. Peace.